He's one of the President's advisors on faith, and he shares 10 surprising truths about heaven. Dr. Robert Jeffress joins us in the studio. Plus, these children share their drinking water with dirty cattle. How CBN stepped in to stop the suffering and change lives on today's 700 Club Interactive. Well, welcome to the show. The Bible says that God has put eternity in the hearts of mankind. Yet, as Pastor Robert Jeffress believes, many of us know very little about heaven.
You might recognize Dr. Robert Jeffress as a Fox News contributor. He also pastors a 13,000-member church in Dallas, Texas. Dr. Jeffress says throughout his frequent travels around the world, he thinks about one trip that will last for eternity. In his book, A Place Called Heaven, he shares why it's important for all of us to focus on heaven and how thinking about the next life can make us more effective in this one.
Well, Dr. Jeffress joins us now, and it's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Gordon.
Why is it that most people don't pay attention to heaven? Yeah, I just got back from a vacation. I wouldn't dream of going on vacation without first looking at the brochure.
Yes.
And seeing what am I getting into.
Yeah.
But we don't really understand heaven. Why?
I think one reason, Gordon, is people aren't that excited about going to heaven because they think they're going to be bored to death for all eternity.
Sitting
a lot of people,
clouds with
or even worse, an unending church service, which sounds like hell to a lot of people instead of heaven. The fact is, we're going to do a lot of things in heaven. We're going to work in heaven. We're going to be the same people we are here on earth in heaven without the sin factor. And so I think if we really knew what heaven was like, I think there'd be mass suicides of people trying to get there as quickly as we could. So the Bible doesn't tell us everything, but it tells us more than most people think. And in the book, A Place Called Heaven, what I do is answer people's 10 most frequently asked questions about heaven, such as, will we know one another in heaven? What are we going to do in heaven? Is heaven going to be the same for everyone?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the work, because I think that's a surprise to a lot of Christians. Yes. That we're actually going to have things to do.
Yeah.
So what are they?
Well, remember, the ultimate destination is not floating around up there. It's right here on this earth, the recreated earth. And God told Adam, I want you to cultivate the garden and keep it. Work was not a curse. It got harder after the fall, but the work was not a curse. Adam was made in the image of God. God is a worker. We're made to be workers. And you know, the only reason we don't enjoy our work right now maybe is because we have tired bodies or interpersonal relationships, all of the effects of sin, which will be removed. So I think in the new heaven, the new earth, we're going to continue our work. You know, think about it, Gordon. God didn't just give us gifts for this life only. I wouldn't be surprised if our work in the new heaven and the new earth doesn't somewhat resemble what we're doing right now. Again, we don't become different people. We retain our names, we retain our gifts and our personalities, so that may be a clue about what we're going to be doing in heaven.
One of the things in your book, Place Called Heaven, that I think a lot of Americans don't really realize is that there's a really narrow gate.
Yes.
I've seen surveys of Americans, and 90% of us think, I'm going to heaven.
Yes.
And it's actually the other way around.
Yeah.
Why don't we get that message more often?
Well, because it goes against the political correct conventional wisdom of the day that all roads lead to heaven. And I wrote a book last year, Not All Roads Lead to Heaven. And you know, I just used this illustration. Decades ago, I took a youth group to the Soviet Union. It was back in 1978 during the Cold War. We were there for 2 weeks. It was so oppressive. I'll never forget the night we were ready to leave. We got to the Moscow airport. I sent all the kids through passport control first. They got there. My wife went through. I was the last one. Reached for my passport. No passport. I searched frantically. I explained to the Soviet guard that I was on the flight. He couldn't have cared less. No passport, no exit out of here. And finally, a friend on the other side picked out my passport. He waved it, holding it. He had taken it as a joke from me.
Not a good joke.
Not a good joke.
Not a good joke with a Russian guard.
The relief I felt going through that turnstile, I'll never forget that. And you know, Gordon, the Bible says at the end time, at the judgment day, many people will be pleading with Jesus to allow entrance into heaven. Didn't we do this? Didn't we do that? He'll say, depart from me, I never knew you. There's only one passport that gets us into heaven. It's the one stamped forgiven by Jesus Christ.
Amen. Why do you say that in some respects, we're not going to remember the former things. We're not going to have, you know, I think one of the things a lot of Christians are concerned with is, how much will I remember of my former life? Well, am I going to remember the bad things?
Well, we talk about that in the book. I actually do not believe God does a memory wipe when we get into heaven. I think we have a new perspective on things when we get into heaven. For example, people say, well, if my loved ones are in hell perishing and I'm aware of it, how could I be happy in heaven? Well, the fact is, the joy of heaven will not be extinguished by the flames of hell. And I think we're going to have a perfect knowledge in heaven. We're going to understand why everyone in hell deserves to be there. And so I don't think there's a memory wipe. I think it's a new perspective.
Okay. What do we get to take with us to heaven?
The only thing that goes with us is what we've done for Christ on this earth. And you know, there's an interesting phrase I use in the book, and that is, what we do on earth reverberates in the halls of heaven forever. And that's one of the greatest misconceptions, Gordon, people have about heaven that I address in A Place Called Heaven. Heaven is not going to be the same for everybody. A lot of people think heaven's going to be kind of a sanctified socialism where we all get the same size house and the same plot of land. No. You know, our good works are absolutely worthless to secure our place in heaven. But after we become a Christian, our good works make a great deal of difference into what kind of heaven we're going to experience. And so we need to understand that rewards in heaven. And here's the paradox, Gordon. As brief as our time is here on earth, 70, 80 years, what we do in these few fleeting years we have determines the kind of eternal heaven we're going to experience.
Right, and it has to do with how much responsibility we're going to have.
It's going to be responsibility, special praise from the Master, special privileges, special access to the tree of life. I don't understand all the forms these rewards take, but Paul said whatever they are, they're worth sacrificing for in this life.
Yeah, and eye hasn't seen.
Yeah, that's right.
Ear hasn't heard. It hasn't even entered into our heart what He has for us.
Yeah.
All right, well, the book is great. I encourage you to get it. And I also encourage you to take some inventory. If you think you're just going to coast on in, think again. And the book, A Place Called Heaven, will have a lot of information about your eternal home and how, more importantly, how to get there. It's available wherever books are sold. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Gordon.
Yeah. Well, desperate times and no water left these villagers drinking something unimaginable. Don't miss how CBN brought hope to Uganda when we return. There's a village in sub-Saharan Africa whose name literally means heat waves. And as you can imagine, fresh water there is hard to come by. But that changed after a team from CBN and Innovation Africa arrived. Thanks to solar technology, the same sun that scorched their village is now delivering clean water and saving lives along the way.
As the sun rises over Karamoja, Uganda, the sound of singing fills the air. Young and old dance as one, while prayers of relief and gratitude are lifted to heaven. Among those celebrating is Teko, a well-respected elder in her village. Like many, she prayed for this day for a very long time.
This is the first time I ever had clean water. For years, I've been in pain from drinking dirty water. Now, at last, my pain is gone.
We flew to this remote corner of Africa, crossing a wide expanse of barren landscape, and met up with Sivan Yari from Innovation Africa, an Israeli ministry supported by CBN.
I've been in Africa for many years, almost 2 decades. There is no doubt that here in Karamoja, the need is much greater than any other place I've been.
There is a famine in the land. Water is life. Without it, we cannot do anything.
Before the wells were drilled here, daily desperation consumed people's lives. They did what they needed to survive, as death crept around every home. Each morning, people start fires, some clean their homes, and others harvest reeds or chop wood. But every family had one main goal for the day: finding water.
In times of drought, we go very far in search of water. The water is always dirty. My whole family has been sick because of it.
Many are forced to share their water sources with animals.
After chopping wood all day, I went to our spring to drink water, but the cows trampled the water and it was too dirty to drink. As I walked back home, I almost fainted.
Out of options, she went back to the murky pool, bent down, and drank muddy water she shared with cattle. In the peak of the dry season, sometimes there isn't even muddy water. This region is called Nakapirapret, which literally means heat waves.
We've all tried to grow crops, but at times like this, there is nothing we can do. The sun burns it all.
They don't know from where to get water. There is no water to be found. And and if the mothers are able to find some water, most of the time it's so contaminated, and they know that most likely it will make their kids sick. Many of them are praying that their children will not die from thirst or from the contaminated water, but they have no choice.
I remember walking an entire day in search of water. I spent hours digging without finding any. I was very weak and it took me 8 hours to get home. I saw someone with a little bit of water and whispered, "Please help me, I am thirsty." But the children had already finished it. I fell down exhausted. My throat was too dry to speak, so I whispered a prayer to God for water.
When the crops fail and they have nothing to eat, people pick tree leaves.
So this is what they subsist on. Hardly has any nutritional value at all. And it doesn't taste like much of anything. It's just sort of bitter. Now, most of the time, they'll boil this in muddy water and salt. And Teko tells me that when there's no water at all, they'll boil this in cow urine.
Instead of coming home empty-handed, we bring the cow urine. You drink it or use it for preparing food. After drinking it, you feel like vomiting. But when you vomit, nothing comes out because you are starving.
Many people suffer from a condition called brucella from eating contaminated food.
One of my children lost all of his hair and had open sores on his head. I knew it was because of the urine and dirty water.
I don't think that people are realizing how harsh is it for so many people. The starvation is forcing people to eat leaves, mice, drinking the blood of their animals just to survive.
In times of famine, we drain some blood from a cow and drink it to survive. We don't normally do that, but when there is nothing else, we have to.
The cows don't die from the bloodletting, and they're not killed for their meat. They're kept, so drinking blood can always be a last resort for survival. Not one family has been left untouched by the lack of water. Many, including Lucia, have dealt with death.
I remember when I was pregnant, I was carrying water home from the contaminated stream. I had been sick for days from drinking the water. A terrible pain tore at my inside, and I realized I was having a miscarriage. I thought I was dying. I got very cold, and every part of my body ached. It felt like my life was over. I know it happened because of the water.
Sivan saw firsthand what happens to the elderly in times of drought and famine.
Old woman is about to die of hunger.
I don't understand. What?
An old woman.
Yes.
Yes, helpless, but she's about to die of hunger. There's no food.
She's about to die? When I arrived, I couldn't believe it. And when I went to the first village, I saw elders that are dying from hunger. I felt hopeless at that point. I've never seen anything like it. Only in the past few days, we have heard of 37 people who have died of thirst.
There was an old lady that died in her house. She was as thin as a reed. She was dead for 3 days before anyone found her. She was so dried up, we didn't even smell her body.
During these times, only the strong can bear it. Elders and young children suffer the most.
It pains me to see my grandchildren thirsty and going hungry. Sometimes they are too weak to get up. I give my food to the children, then I kneel down make the sign of the cross, and God comes and takes my hunger away.
As a mother of 3 children, it is heartbreaking when I see the children suffering, but even worse is when I look at the mothers and how they are hopeless because they don't know how to save their children.
I went on my knees and said, God, you are the one who gave me these children. Why have you given them to me only to take them away? There is no one who can help us apart from you.
Then one morning, Tekoa and the others heard a sound almost like thunder outside their village. 2 large trucks arrived. As they started drilling, the news spread quickly. Their lack of water would soon be a thing of the past. CBN teamed up with Innovation Africa and drilled not 1, but 4 wells in this region. When water erupted for the first time, animals from far away sensed it and walked miles to drink. Children played and people gathered from a dozen villages. More than 10,000 people now have fresh, clean water.
It seems like they've been waiting for us, and they keep saying that they knew we will be coming because they were praying God and they knew we will be coming and they will be saved.
This is the first time in 30 years that I don't have to search for water. I cannot believe it. Just as God rescued Daniel from the lion's den, He has rescued us today.
With the drilling complete, we built towers and hoisted tanks to store the water. Through the use of Israeli technology, solar panels provide the energy needed to power deep well pumps.
The same sun that is making them thirsty, the same sun that is drying their land, is today the same sun that is providing them with water. It's the energy from the sun that is now saving people's lives.
As the solar panels are being installed back here, all of the women of the village have turned out to sing songs thanking the people of Israel and praising God for bringing water to a place where it was desperately needed.
In fact, this barren corner of Africa almost became the New Jerusalem.
In 1903, the land of Karamoja was offered to the homeless Jews from Europe. This could have been the homeland of the Jews.
Today, more than 100 years later, CBN and Innovation Africa have come to share the same Israeli technology that's transforming the dry deserts of Israel into fertile farmland.
I believe that Israel is nothing short of a miracle when you think about all the innovations that are coming out of this small country. As Israelis, we feel a sense of pride to come to Karamoja now that we are strong, to be able to share the blessings out of Israel. It's emotional for us, and I'm happy that we had this opportunity, especially with CBN, to come together as Christians and Jews and to be able to help. Without us coming together here, thousands of people would have died. Absolutely, no doubt about it.
I cannot believe it. My grandchildren are really enjoying the water. Now they can drink water whenever they want.
I love drinking the water. It tastes so good.
It is priceless when we are seeing the joy in the eyes of the mothers, the hope when water is flowing. It's worth everything. And I wish that the donors could see it and understand the impact that they are making in the lives of so many people.
We gave all of the families here seeds to start new gardens. We're also giving them food to help them get by as their crops begin to grow lush and strong.
Just as God has blessed the water, He will bless the seeds you have brought.
The towers and tanks provide enough pressure to pipe water a mile or more to nearby villages. People gladly work together to dig trenches and lay pipes so their villages can have water too. With fresh, clean water, sickness has drastically decreased. Lucia and her family even welcomed a healthy baby boy into the world.
Having water has changed our lives. Everything is better. We can finally grow our own vegetables and even sell them at the market.
Once they have access to water, everything changes. They can wash themselves. They're no longer thirsty. They grow food. Children can go to school. People are healthier.
It is so wonderful being clean. Before, we only washed during the rainy season. Once the season ended, we stayed dirty, sometimes for 9 months. Now, I bath every day. I am so grateful.
Just hours after the first taps were opened, people did laundry as clean clothes waved in the wind. Cook pots boiled, and streams of people gathered water to take home.
I know that God has answered our prayers. The grandchildren of my children will not suffer like we have suffered.
What we're doing here, it's not only for now, but it's for many generations to come. It's the beginning of a better future for even centuries to come.
Thank you for bringing us water. I love you all very much.
God is so great. He has answered our prayers through the people of Israel and CBN. Thank you. May God bless you all.
And thank you. If you're a member of the 700 Club, you're part of that. You're part of that wonderful project bringing fresh drinking water to 10,000 people in Uganda. If you're not a member, I invite you right now to join with us and say, yes, I want to be a part of it. How much is it to join the 700 Club? Well, it's just $20 a month. That breaks out to only 65 cents a day. And you're joining with tens of thousands of people that want to make a difference in the world. Now, for those wells, each one of those wells is roughly $35,000 apiece. So that's a $140,000 project to make that happen. But when we all come together and do our part, well, then we can lump all that together and we can make these kinds of things happen. So if that's you, if you want to do this kind of thing, join with us. A portion of every gift to the 700 Club goes into the work of Operation Blessing, goes into the work of CBN Humanitarian internationally, goes into the preaching the gospel around the world. A portion goes to Superbook as well. I mean, it's all made possible because people like you care to give. So if that's you, call us now. 1-800-700-7000. And we have a well drilling program. If you want to designate your gift just to drilling wells around the world, we do solar wells, we do manual pump wells, all made possible because people give. All you have to do is go to cbn.com. On the giving page, there's a place where you can designate a gift to drilling water wells. So if you want to just do that, go to cbn.com, or you can call us and say, I want to give to water wells, and you can designate that way. 1-800-700-7000. Well, up next, countless Americans are living with shame. Evangelist Christine Caine tells us how you can turn shame on you to shame off you. Don't go away. Shame can take on many forms. It can hide in the shadows of the most successful, confident, and high-achieving person, as well as in the heart of those who've been abused or abandoned. Shame can hold us back in ways we don't even realize. But Evangelist Christine Caine says we can all be shame-free. Take a look.
You know, when I was born, I was left in a hospital unnamed and unwanted. I experienced sexual abuse at the hands of many different men for over a decade of my life. I was a young woman that was full of unforgiveness, that was full of bitterness, that was full of shame and guilt and condemnation. I was so angry. I never really thought that I could get past my past. But then I encountered the reality of a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I discovered that my past does not need to define my future, that I am not the workmanship of someone else's mistake, but that I am God's workmanship. Ephesians 2 verse 10 says that we are God's workmanship, recreated in Christ Jesus for good works that God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Although a whole lot of bad things were done to me, I was able to make what Jesus did for me greater than what anyone else had done to me. Because of the redemptive work of Jesus Christ on the cross, because of that blood that was shed at Calvary, I am able to move beyond the abuse and the pain and the struggle and the unforgiveness and the brokenness of my past into the awesome future that Jesus Christ died to give me. He came not just so that I could exist, but so that we could have life and life more abundant. I want to encourage you, no matter what has happened to you, no matter what mistakes you have made, no matter what failures you have made, I want you to know that if you woke up this morning and there's still breath in your lungs, it is not too late. Your life is not over. God has a plan. He has a purpose. He has a destiny for you. The enemy is a liar, but he is very loud. You need to replace the loud lies of the enemy with the truth of God that it's found in His Word. You are not an accident. You are created on purpose for a purpose. You are God's workmanship. You are created in the image of God and filled with God-given purpose and destiny. The same Jesus that came to this unnamed, unwanted, broken, ashamed young woman, wiped away the mess of my past, gave me a brand new life and a hope and a future. That same Jesus is right there with you now. He can give you a life beyond your past. I want to declare what Jesus Christ declared over your life. He said, shame off you. The world says shame on you, but I'm declaring shame off you in Jesus' name.
To those that believe on Him, to them He gives the power to be the children of the Most High God. Realize your place in the kingdom. Realize your place in heaven. And in there's no shame. Here's a word for you from Ephesians. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast.